Good morning, friends.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How can a concept, not a thing, but a concept, have as much overwhelming power as love does? It is very common for people to say that love comes in many forms, a statement that, technically speaking, cannot be true. Yet love, a formless, untouchable idea, which is impossible to define exactly, compels so many people to behave in a manner that is wholly unusual to what human nature should lead them to. I use the word overwhelming quite purposefully. That word derives its meaning from whelm, a Middle English word that is now considered archaic. Whelm was a word most commonly used in relation to seafaring that essentially meant being struck and submerged by water. It was not something that one wanted to have happen to them. Naturally, the word overwhelm meant to be entirely and irreparably sunken, stolen by the rough waves of the North Sea where this word had its origin. Interestingly, the word underwhelm derives from overwhelm and not, as you would expect, whelm. Using the literal meaning of words, underwhelm, which would mean, I suppose, not being in the waves at all, makes no sense. That context makes it even more unbelievable that being overwhelmed with love would be a good thing. It is a cliche among Christians that we may, at any given time, be asked to name our favorite Bible verse. Many people have a superficial and not simply philosophical attachment to their favorite verse. Some people have them embroidered into pillows, typed in their social media bios, or signed alongside their signatures. Unfortunately, my favorite verse, which actually isn't just one verse, but rather a whole chapter, is trite to the point of being almost useless for purposes of moral guidance. I am referring to 1 Corinthians 13, from beginning to end, and it's not very long, so if you don't mind, I'm going to read it for you. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I have become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body so I may boast, but have not love, it profits me nothing. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not boast. It is not arrogant, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. But whether there are prophecies, they will fail. Whether there are tongues, they will cease. Whether there is knowledge, it will vanish away. For we know in part and prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect has come, then that which is in part will be done away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. We now see in a mirror dimly, but then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know just as I also am known. And now abide faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love. I thought it was important that I read the entirety of that chapter, however brief, because all too often it is reduced to just the 4 verses that are commonly read at weddings. We hear those words so often that they in essence become creedal, sentences with meanings deeper than we could understand in one reading, but that are rarely pondered to any significant degree. For people who, like me, suffer from an incurable desire to learn constantly, it is Hold on. There's a but.
There's always a but.
It is important to be humbled by the notion that simple correctness is not the preeminent factor in the value of someone's words. A statement that is entirely factual but does not have love cannot carry truth, because love, St. Paul says, rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. An action that is done in the name of God but does not have love cannot be of God, because God is love. Thirsty. In total, there are 8 things that the Apostle Paul says love isn't, and 8 things he says love is, the final of which is that it never fails. This list certainly isn't exhaustive, nor do I think it is necessarily finite. Love will continue to be things as long as both love and things exist. Love is spending time tending to crops in a garden. It is making the effort to hold a door for someone. It is deciding to slam on your brakes to stop you from striking a pedestrian. It is leaving the last piece of candy in the basket for someone else. And I'm sure I could come up with 50 more examples if I wanted to. Of all of the potential adjectives that St. Paul didn't choose to include in this chapter, the one I would most like to be included is that love is also blind. And to be clear, I'm still talking about the epistles, not that Netflix show my mom likes. If not romantic love, then certainly mundane love should be, and is, blind. Not just to external beauty, but also to internal goodness. When we choose to let someone pass us on the highway, or choose to hold the door for someone at the grocery store, we are entirely blind to any moral failings that they have. If we were told that the guy who we let pass us on the highway had cheated on his wife, or that the guy who we held the door for was a steadfast racist, we still should have made the same choice. When we do these mundane acts of love, we are unaware of their horrible secrets. When God does anything for anyone, he does so in complete knowledge of the worst things they have ever done. In our eyes, we are blind. In God's eyes, we are forgiven. If there is one consistent theme in 1 Corinthians 13, it is that mortals do not know the full story of the universe. We are left to piece together only the fragments of truth that God wills us to piece together. This is a daunting task. We understand everything that the wisest person on earth knows is microscopic in the eyes of God. But we are told that one day, when that which is perfect has come, all that which is in part will be done away. Imagine a shadowy figure called Truth. You are on the top of Mount Mitchell, and Truth is in uptown Charlotte. But we are promised that when that which is perfect has come, we will come face to face with that shadowy figure called Truth. That being said, we have been bestowed with guidance as to how to behave before we may partake in the truth. Until we may see the moral bones and sinews of the universe, we are implored to act with love. It is certainly difficult to act this way, considering how much humans have done to harm one another, and yet we are commanded to do so. Why do we have to love evil people? It certainly doesn't feel good. There are no feelings better than the cathartic joy gained from a glorious act of vengeance. So why shouldn't we indulge ourselves in the pleasures of justice? Because God, in his infinite wisdom beyond our understanding, would prefer that all people be united in him. We would rather not be united with many of those people, but we don't send the invites to the God party. Human evil is not a malevolent force acting outside of free will. Human evil is a sickness, a contagious one, that harms both the victim and the perpetrator. We should hope, pray, and strive that all people be cured of evil, if not for them, then for us, and if not for us, then for God. I'm going to digress for a moment, but I shall return. When I sat down to write this message, I put on a good playlist of music, and I began to notice the love. It's a lot of Johnny Cash, Dolly Parton, Old Crow Medicine Show, and Buck Owens. Love is a muse. Humans love loving and being loved, and it is only natural that we seek to replicate that in art. But I fear that it makes us numb. Do we simply accept that love is flourishing because we sing about it? I encourage people to dwell on the presumably captivating lyrics of their favorite love song and consider the emotions rather than catchiness alone. There are two broad forms of love. There is love as a feeling, and there's love as an action. Of the two, love, the feeling, is undoubtedly the more powerful for the lover. This is the kind of love that we feel in our hearts, in our brains. our favorite book, movie, song, or perhaps our favorite verse. This is the love for a romantic partner, a relative, a friend, or a place. This is the love that can only exist at our discretion. No matter how hard I try, I will never feel love for math. Love, the action, is different. I can hold complete contempt in my heart for someone, but still treat them as a fellow child of God. This is mundane love. It isn't quite as exciting as the emotional kind, but if we only behaved lovingly when we felt like it, the world would be a miserable place. Beyond these two forms of love, I think it is most valuable for Christians to practice a third. Love the compulsion. We should not make individual decisions to love one another. We made that decision when we made the decision to love God. Too often, by the time we decide to perform any individual act of love, we have been deprived of the opportunity. Before we can do something for someone, they have done it for themselves. You do not have the time to spare. Do not second-guess love. There is a famous, but likely apocryphal story about the 11th century English king Canute the Great, where he, you know where this is going, where he, the mightiest ruler in the land, demonstrated his powerlessness before God by trying to halt the waves of the North Sea. He placed himself on the beach and demanded that the sea go no further. Yet the waves still broke, and he was whelmed. There was actually a Jeopardy question about this particular incident earlier this week, but I decided to talk about it in my message before that episode aired, so take that, Ken. Just as the king could not stop the forces of nature, we cannot resist the forces of love that compel us to care for one another. St. Paul said that those who speak empty words without love were like a sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. Those instruments overwhelm people with their noise. When we speak with love, our words overwhelm people with our love. We cannot be content with love simply being a deliberate action, but rather make it a compulsion. We must work every day of our lives through the actions of our neighbors, which makes it impossible to love them, and then do that. Just as God's love for us is irresistible, our lives must be utterly consumed by irresistible love for our fellow human beings. Thank you very much.
Thank you.